you fucking believe they made a sequel to this shit?
I don't know how you can even do that, really, right?
Because you think he decomposed before they could ever record a sequel set in the future?
It wasn't the same body, right?
Oh, it was.
It was the same. It was Bernie again?
Yep.
No.
He's reanimated, I think, by voodoo.
What?
Yeah, it's even worse than this one.
Holy fuck.
I believe, if I have that correct, he's in a morgue, I think, which sustains him for some longer time, but then he gets reanimated by like some voodoo priestess.
The fact that his corpse doesn't start like decomposing during the process of this movie is baffling.
He's in the hot fucking sun all day.
Yeah, for several days. And the fact that he then gets rezzed for a second movie is pretty special to me. I think that's bold. I feel like corpse comedy in itself is like a bit of a bold move.
You think it blurs the line between good taste and fucking yeah?
I am a fan at times of dark comedy. And this, yeah, it's kind of funny. It kind of pulls me back, I guess, to Idle Hands, which we watched.
Yeah,
last season, right? There's a bit of dark comedy in that too.
But that was just a hand.
Yes.
Although his friends do die, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's a stoner
come back
comedy.
to life.
I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
I know. It's funny. It's weird to me when we bring comedy and death together and it becomes like a part of the shtick. I think it is not something that is like run of the mill, right? Like at least that is kind of novel.
I think some would say laughing at death is the highest form of comedy. But
Yeah.
those people did not see Weekend at Bernie's. Welcome to Bad Movies and Beer. I'm Cooper.
And I'm Nolan.
And today we are discussing Weekend at Bernie's. A movie that I recall being a hit in the 80s, but actually it kind of wasn't. It got very popular on home video, and it kind of like grew a following, but it was only mildly successful on its initial release.
Yeah. Growing up at the same time as you, I have the same kind of recollection. This became like a on TV and VHS all-star.
I rented this a bunch as a fucking kid and really found it funny, which is as sure a sign as ever that I am not the same person I was 35 years ago.
Yeah, because this, watching it again, and when you brought it up, like, we're going to watch Weekend at Bernie's, I had that reaction, which I don't have that often in this podcast where I was like, really?
My wife asked the same thing. She was like, is this even a bad movie? And I was like, I feel like there's enough for us to poke fun at because essentially no one can tell he's dead because he's wearing sunglasses. That's really it.
And he's got such a strong fake tan that his body doesn't go blue or whatever color it would, gray.
You think it's a fake tan? It's a real tan. He's in
Maybe.
the fucking beach every
It's
weekend.
true. He's pretty leathery too, so it's probably not a fake tan. But yeah, this did not hold up to what I remembered this bad boy being.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, we'll get
Feel
into
free
all
to
that
fast
as we
forward to the
go.
ratings. Apparently knows it right now, yeah.
Oh, shit. So, like always, we pair a beer with the movie, and this is a bit of a layup for sure. Weekend at Bernie's is all about two horny guys dragging around
Two
a
bitchin'
corpse.
dudes on the prowl. Isn't that the fucking line from The Night of the Creeps, wasn't it? Yeah.
I wish this was the Night of the Creeps, to be honest, but you know. So
Tom Atkins is Bernie? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That'd be fucking so much better.
Oh, Tom Atkins would have been sweet in this. But we are going to be pairing Weekend at Bernie's with Rogue's Dead Guy Ale.
It's a very popular, it's like their flagship brand, right?
Yeah, so Rogue is a very, very famous craft brewery out of Portland, Oregon. They were one of the first to sort of start shipping and spreading craft beer around the United States and into Canada. I can remember this beer actually being one of my first like gateway IPAs. It was this one and Mad Tom IPA by Muskoka.
I was going to say, would this have been the first like craft beer you ever tasted? Because it's been around for a long time, and before it was popular here, like this is when I remember being held up as like, this is a new beer style.
Yeah.
Essentially.
No, it definitely was. We had access to this before craft brewing became popular in Canada, right? Like this has been around so long. It's going to be pretty malt forward, traditional West Coast IPA. So not my favorite style now, but something that I think of fondly, I guess, when I am like thinking of craft beers that I've drank in the past. So I'm looking forward to drinking this
A
again.
robust malt profile. Okay, I'm growing on this a little bit. This is exciting.
You're going to like it. This is one of those like very malt forward beers.
Okay, I don't know if I've ever had anything from Rogue before because I think this is the only beer theirs that I'm familiar with.
They have so many. They had a whole series of beers, which I drank a lot of, where they There's a famous donut shop in Portland.
Voodoo Donuts.
Yeah, Voodoo
I've been
Donuts.
there.
Yeah. So
it's fucking great, by the way.
they worked with Voodoo to make a bunch of beers in the flavor of their donuts.
Ooh.
And so they had like some really cool stouts. There was like a peanut butter bacon one and a whole bunch of other ones that were really quite good. So
did they have a and balls one?
Oh, I don't.
Are you not familiar with
donuts?
this?
No.
Voodoo Donuts has you can get it is a and balls. It's a donut, like essentially an elongated fucking cream-filled donut. Because of course it is.
Yeah, and was it delicious?
It's shaped.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fucking great. Yeah.
I mean, you're never gonna say no to a.
You wrap your mouth around
right?
it, the cream just shoots down your throat. It's fucking great stuff.
So yeah, obviously really well known in the craft beer scene. They have tons and tons of styles. I've never been to Portland, but if I did go, I would definitely try to make my way over to see if I could get to the brewery, check out some of the sort of seasonal stuff they have going on, and I bet their facility is just really cool as well. But I'm excited to get into it. You ready to crack it open?
Yeah, I guess so. Let's do it. So we open with some rockin', vaguely reggae-tinged 80s music and immediately meet our two main characters, Richard and Larry, played by a couple of rockin', vaguely successful 80s celebrities, Jonathan Silverman and Andrew McCarthy. They're two low-level insurance company employees with very different philosophies about work/adulthood. Richard is dressed very seriously and walks out of a respectable-looking building carrying a briefcase, whereas Larry is wearing shorts and a t-shirt and lugging his shit around in an I Love New York shopping bag. Also, Larry is a half hour late for their prearranged meeting time, so he's the wild one.
Yeah, they are very quickly establishing the differences between these two characters. Silverman is definitely the straight man, and McCarthy is definitely going to be the doesn't give a fuck wild boy of this session. We get some bad like comedy right off the start here with like a fat guy watering and having some bad slapstick and some other stuff going on. It's also really fucking hot. They make it clear right away that it's too hot to be out here working, and we really should be at the beach. The music we have in the background here, Some Like It Hot, I think is the song going on here too.
It's a massive heat wave, as if that wasn't made clear from the opening sequence full of water-based psych eggs and people saying, hot enough for you?
Yeah, so it's a little bit loose here already. I'm like, oh.
It's very loose. That's a great way of describing this. This movie is fucking loose.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you mentioned, they are kind of jonesing for a little beach time, so Larry pushes Richard to ditch work and head to the beach, kind of. It turns out the beach they're referring to is what they call the roof of the building they work in, where they go to continue working, albeit in a slightly more relaxed circumstance. There's some beach chairs, an umbrella, and a kiddie pool full of water, and that's where the guys can really unwind. And perhaps being able to stretch out and catch some rays is just what they needed, as Richard discovers a $2 million discrepancy in some printed computer data. And since this is an 80s movie, when I say printed computer data, anyone over the age of 40 will know exactly what this paper looks like.
Oh my God. And
Did
the
that
jokes,
take you back or what?
Oh, absolutely. It's the one where you have to peel off the stuff on the side
It's
of it.
got the punch holes, and man.
Because that's how the printer drags it through.
And the lines going across, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And we get some humor because the rooftop is hot, so of course the tar is now coming off and onto their hands and paper. It's funny how that kind of reality doesn't age. Someone watching this today would just be like, what the fuck is wrong with them?
Yeah.
Like, look it up on your
right.
cell phone.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have this data there. These two are hired to actually transfer all of their files from hard copy onto computers, and this is them going through some of the changes they've made. They think they have hit it big here. They're now going to be able to share this information with their boss, and they're going to climb that corporate ladder, and that seems really important to both of them. They both want to live this 80s I'm rich dream.
Absolutely, as did many people in the 80s, which will be kind of a recurring theme of this movie. So after discovering this $2 million, they decide to report it directly to their boss, Mr. Lomax, because they are hoping to move up the corporate ladder. And speaking of moving up, that's what Richard's is doing when he spots a sexy lady in the office he's got a crush on.
Yeah, this is apparently our Silverman character is a bit shy. He has been sort of looking at or interested in this intern all summer, but it turns out this is her last week there. He didn't make a move until it was almost too late.
But he does make a move.
Yeah.
Because Larry encourages him to ask her out in a somewhat humorous fashion. There's some elevator shenanigans in here, a couple of cringy lines. But when Richard finally ends up face to face with the lady, he decides to go with...
Excuse me. My aunt is very sick.
Bold strategy. especially because, as Richard quickly reveals, he doesn't even have an aunt. So my question is, how are you feeling about the comedy at this point?
Oh my God, I'm struggling.
Yeah, already? We're like 8 minutes into this thing.
Yeah, so here's the problem for me is Silverman's character is the kind of character that I empathize with the most and find comedy challenging for. I have a real difficult time with the straight man being embarrassed comedy because I feel like that's how I would act too. Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you're more of a Richard than a Larry is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think people listening to our podcast could probably assign us both roles based on that dynamic.
Yeah, I think absolutely they would know that pretty quickly. Yeah. And so for me, that whole style of comedy, I have to walk away. Like, there are lots of times where I didn't while watching this movie, I stuck it out, but there were lots of times where I know he's going to embarrass himself and that's supposed to be funny, but it makes me feel uncomfortable. And there was a lot of that. What's funny though is that it kind of works here.
Yeah.
Despite embarrassing himself and like being a goof about it, it may work for him. Sometimes just putting yourself out there is all that you need in the world, right?
Well, apparently, yeah. Against all odds, Richard's clumsy baby deer trying to stand for the first time method of flirtation actually works with this girl, and she agrees to go on a date with him. Not only that, but when they finally get in a room with Mr. Lomax, Richard and Larry show him the $2 million, and that makes him very happy. Happy enough that he tells him to stop calling him Mr. Lomax and instead address him by his first name, which, of course, is Bernie. Were you surprised? No, I didn't recognize him without the sunglasses.
I knew who he was, but I understand where you're going with this. They are building this Bernie Lomax character into quite the giant piece of shit. He comes in hot already, like popping a bunch of like Advil and chugging some like what it looked like Pepto-Bismol and water here.
Hungover,
he's pretty hungover. Yeah. We also see him after they give him the news head to the washroom to snort some cocaine. So we're
also makes a comment about his working still or something about like hot ladies and his eyesight's gone but his joystick still works is the line.
Yeah, so we're getting him set up as your traditional 80s douchebag. It's clear pretty quickly when he says he's excited, we can see something else is wrong here. And seeing the lifestyle that he's living, we can only assume that it's because he's involved in this missing $2 million.
Yeah, that seems to be the direction they're pointing us in. And you'll never believe it, but he is so taken with their discovery that he invites them to spend a weekend with him at his place in the Hamptons, which is especially great news since they were just complaining about how there aren't any real beaches around for them to visit. But this is not all good news for Richard and Larry, as we immediately cut to Bernie asking some legitimate Italian businessmen to kill the two of them, all while the main boss Vito's lady tries to give him a foot job under the table.
Yeah, this was an uncomfortable dinner. We've got some like definitely stereotypical mafioso kind of characters there. They tell him that they're not into that kind of killing anymore. They've moved into legitimate businesses like construction and investing. But a couple of the goons say that they are kind of bored of the new life and they're willing to kind of listen to the plan that he's setting up here. Now, the mobster's girlfriend giving Bernie a foot job at the table is a bit of a problem here, and it doesn't go unnoticed by the mafia boss or his goons here.
Oh, it sure does not. No. Now, you mentioned going along with the plan. Bernie does have a plan. The plan is stage a murder-suicide and pin the missing $2 million on Richard and Larry. And the mobsters do seem into this, but when Bernie leaves and Vito's lady runs out of there to powder her nose, literally 2 seconds later, the jig is up, and Vito decides to change the plan.
Forget the accident with the two guys. Take care of Lomax. He's getting too careless, too greedy.
I'll be honest, this is a way more elaborate setup for this movie than I remembered.
Oh my God, yes. I didn't remember any of this.
No, I thought Bernie was like one of their uncles or something and he's just dead. This is far more detailed.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had no idea that Bernie was intending on killing them and that he was going to get whacked because he was laying pipe with the mafioso boss's lady.
Yeah.
So this is
I thought they were in the construction business, not him.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. So there is so much going on here that I did not remember. What I also didn't remember was how fucking long this buildup was.
Yes, I agree. It takes a while. Yeah.
We are probably almost 30 minutes into this movie now. I wrote down on my sheet that when we finally get to them on the island with Bernie, we're at 37, and we're not far away from that. So it's kind of an interesting, I didn't remember how long it took to get to that weekend at Bernie's, but we've pretty much got it all set up here, right? The boys are planning their way to get down. They're going to be taking a ferry over, and Bernie's going to head to the island early on his own. He's got a power boat here. He's going to drive off. And
they're not invited on that. They got to take the ferry.
No,
Bernie's going to go by himself, and they're going to show up later, yeah.
Well, he's got to go there, and he's got to write a suicide note for them
right,
and get a few things in order before they show up.
Fuck, what a gem that note turns out to be, too.
Oh, my God.
Now, I mentioned elaborate setups a minute ago. This mobster murder-suicide plot is nothing compared to what we get during Richard's date with that girl from work. It's basically all joke setup. The date is going well enough that she wants to go back to his place, only he lives with his parents, so he has to sneak her in, which he blames on complaining neighbors, then tells her his parents are dead in a combination plane/train accident. Now, this all pays off, if you can call it that, when Richard's dad staggers out for a glass of water, and Richard commits hard to a "that's my butler" gambit. Let's listen to how that goes.
Sorry, didn't realize you had company. Good evening, young lady.
That's all right, Monroe. Yes, just will you please just go lay out my navy blue suit for the morning, please?
How about if I lay you out?
Very well.
And that's it for Gwen.
Yeah, I mean, Richard really shouldn't have been throwing down so many lies here. He's trying to impress her, and it seems to work all the way up until Dad walks out in his underpants. They are about to bone down on this couch, but Dad ruins that. Also definitely ruins any impression that he's a butler with that lay you out comment. And so Gwen runs out of there being like, you're a fucking douche and I want nothing to do with you. Again, that kind of comedy that I feel bad for rather than laughing at. And it's hard because it's just like, I don't know. I can understand that it's well done here. I actually think that this scene is pretty good. But it's one that I have trouble laughing at and not feeling sad about.
That's fair. But I will say it's just as good that Gwen is gone because Richard is due in the Hamptons to Larry the next day. And we see them racing to catch the ferry in our next scene. And I will admit, I laughed when they ran and jumped onto what turned out to be a ferry that was arriving, not departing. That actually kind of popped me a little. They get sorted out quickly enough, but so does Bernie when one of Vito's goons shows up and injects him with a lethal amount of heroin. Comedy.
So funny. The killing and murdering of someone, the plan and murder of two young men who find out fraud is happening. These are all hilarious things.
Seriously.
Before he gets injected with heroin, I do want to mention that he arrives at the island here and he has his own Porsche golf cart. Like, this guy is living the fucking life. He also has the most disgusting place I have ever seen. Like, this place he's got on the beach in the Hamptons, it would cost like, I don't know, like $30 million now.
Did you hear how much it cost then?
No.
They were speculating. He's like, what is this, $1.6 million, $1.7 million? Are you fucking kidding me? That's insane.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
God damn.
Yeah.
35 years ago.
Real estate has dramatically changed. That thing would be in the like $30 to $40 million range now.
Easily. Yeah. Although I did not really care for the furniture.
No, well, it's
pretty
a very
garish.
It's a very 80s.
It's the 80s, yeah.
It was a very 80s decorative place, but the open concept on the beach, beautiful, like modern house was kind of cool.
That deck, fuck, with the pool. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, so the place is cool that they're going to be having this party weekend. Unfortunately, the mafia guy has injected Bernie and he's dead. Now, they don't know that. What they know is that this ferry they're taking is quite the party boat.
It is, but that's life on the Hamptons, apparently, because the guys arrive, they find Bernie's corpse, leading to the first in what will be a long series of physical sight gags, but not before they meet one of his sexy neighbors, a buxom blonde who introduces herself.
Hi, is Bernie around?
No, haven't seen him, but we just got here. We're gonna be here all weekend. We're house guests.
Well, tell him Tawny Bard is about to go skiing.
Hi, Tawny. I'm horny.
Oh, hi.
Oh, Larry.
Oh, Larry. Yeah. More of the Larry stuff. Of course, most of the women on this island are running around in
thongs.
Yeah. And
yep.
The 80s had this style of like bottom of bathing suit.
The high cut.
Yeah.
It comes way up on the thigh. You get a lot of thigh.
It's like, it's over the thigh.
I like
it's
them.
like over the waist. Yeah.
Yeah. I've always been a fan of that stuff. Probably because I grew up in that era and that was,
It makes legs look very long.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I hope not.
Yeah.
No. But Tawny tells the guys that a roving band of party guests, much like what was on the boat, would be making their way around to the various beach houses, and they arrive at Bernie's in short order. And despite the fact that many of them actively attempt to interact with him, none of them notice he's dead because, as we already mentioned, he's wearing sunglasses and in a seated position. Subtle commentary on how superficial and vapid the rich are, or laughably flimsy comic presents are going to drag out for 97 minutes? You decide.
To be fair, there's only 50 minutes left in this movie. And
that is true. When you mentioned it taking a long time,
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, I'm like, that's kind of a good thing, because if you tried to stretch this for the full fucking 90, it would be real tough.
one of the things I was surprised about rewatching this was actually how little there was of dragging him around. My only memory of this is those sight gags with the corpse, and we're going to get into some good ones shortly, but there was good as a generous
good
term.
ones, yeah.
Yeah, good as a generous term, but there was much less of it than I had remembered. Now, this party is going on, and it's quite a banger. There's all kinds of people from all over the island coming over to have fun. They are having trouble here, though. Larry wants this to keep going and wants to ride this out, and Silverman wants to call the cops this whole time because he's not comfortable with it. What stops him from calling the cops here?
Well, that's the thing. I mentioned superficial and vapid a second ago. Larry realizes calling the cops will end this party and their ability to enjoy the luxurious beach house. So he tries to talk the much more reasonable Richard out of doing it. But it's not until Gwen shows up that Larry is able to convince Richard not to call the cops.
Gwen got this internship because she knows Lomax.
But also, it turns out she mentioned that she was going to spend the weekend with her family, and that's why she could only see Richard that one time. And she was. It just so happens her family also has a place on the Hamptons. What are the odds?
Oh, my goodness. Now, that sounds like nepotism well, not nepotism. That sounds like networking.
It's who you know, buddy.
It's definitely who you know. She got that internship because her rich family also has a place in the Hamptons. Now, this is good for Silverman, though, because he thought that he was never going to see her again after his dad walking through there in his tighty-whities. But is there a shot here still?
Oh my God, of course. Yeah, neither one of them want to leave now. So Richard and Larry spend the rest of the night running interference on anybody trying to talk to Bernie to varying degrees of success. They manage to get him through a few brief conversations, but also send him smashing through a coffee table and over a balcony railing to the beach below. And get used to me saying this, but nobody notices anything. Richard is having second thoughts after the whole balcony fall thing, but Larry spots Gwen on the beach and sells him on keeping this thing going.
Girl, beach, sand, surf, moonlight. You ever see Here to Eternity, Rich?
Yeah, you like beach fucking Noel?
Not really. No. Sand.
Oh God.
Sand plus sex is not a great thing. I don't.
All right,
think.
Anakin, fucking calm down. I hate sand. It gets everywhere. Is that what's happening now? How do you feel about lighthouse sex?
That would be way cooler.
Oh, well, that's what we get soon.
Lighthouse is just like a penis of a building, so you might. There's no more phallic building in the history of building.
Oh no!
I can't think of a
fuck.
more genital shaped building than a lighthouse.
Let's just spit up all over our fucking soundboard. God damn.
So I feel like lighthouses are erotic just by their nature. Like,
Well, you know what? I hate to break it to you, but Richard, his lighthouse sex also gets scuttled. And yet another example of great physical comedy when he looks directly into the light and then falls through a trap door. So I guess it's back to beach sex, only that too gets ruined by a hilarious sight gag as the waves pull back to reveal Bernie's corpse staring right into Richard's eyes as he's about to bang Gwen. And I was confused here. Does Richard bail because he lost his erection or because he prematurely when Bernie washed up?
oh my gosh. Knowing this Silverman character, it could have been either, but I feel like it was that the erection went away when Bernie's corpse washed up.
Wait a second. You're telling me this mustachioed dead guy isn't sexy?
Oh, I'm telling you that.
Then how do you explain our next scene?
Not all people
Clearly.
are aroused by dead corpses.
But some are.
But some are.
That's what the message of this movie
Now,
is.
Would you have tried to plow through ignoring the dead corpse beside you, or would you have had to shut it down?
I would have plowed through.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
100%.
You would have kept going with Gwen to see if it could have happened.
I would have looked into his eyes deeper. I would have stared into the black space and time of infinity.
We're at an interesting point in the movie here where like there's this massive party going on. Larry is hitting on MILFs and getting shut down right, left, and center.
They weren't all MILFs. Some were like his age. There's a couple of beach babes he makes.
There
Larry
were.
is not very successful though in this.
No,
You're
he's
right.
not.
Yeah.
And the main lady he hits on just tells him to fuck off, which is hilarious.
I feel like he's heard that before.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't think that's Larry's first fuck
He's
off.
gotten that a lot. It's not going to shy him away from asking. He's one of those guys that will throw 100 attempts out, and if one is successful, he's happy.
Yeah, it's the principle.
We're probably gonna have to beep.
Oh,
that.
100%, yes.
But
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. We're keeping that in with a beep. So we've got Silverman like ready to plow Gwen on the beach, but that gets foiled by the dead body. He runs off. He tells her that she deserves better. She deserves candles.
She deserves better than this fucking movie.
Well, yes, that's true. She deserves candles and a nice spot for all of this to happen. So he picks her up and runs her out of there. We also have Larry now. He chases down Larry, and the two of them kind of run out and pull Bernie back into the house. This was kind of as the party's almost over.
Yeah, they put him in bed, and then what happens?
Oh my God. So Vito's lady shows up, and she is pissed, like both pissed, drunk, and angry because Bernie had planned to meet her that evening, but because of his death, obviously wasn't able to show up. She thinks...
Because of his death.
So she thinks that he's cheating on her. So she's pissed. She thinks he's fucking another woman.
But she's cheating on Vito with him.
But that doesn't matter because her true
Double
love,
standard.
her true love is Bernie. So she shows up. She comes in. She says hi to the guys, and she heads to the kitchen and grabs a knife. And then she asks them where he is. They point up to the bedroom. She heads up there with a knife. We think she's gonna try to like chop him apart. It wouldn't matter because he's a corpse now. But when she gets up there and finds he's not with a woman, she changes tune rather quickly. She drops that knife as well as dropping her underpants. She crawls in bed with the dead body and rides him for about 10 minutes.
No, it's the better part of half an hour. They're down on the couch being like, it's been 50 minutes. It's been 20 minutes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And so she like her heart out riding this corpse. Obviously, rigor mortis.
Nature's Viagra.
Yeah, has made his dong hard, and she just needs a hard pull for her to get off.
This is an 80s comedy.
Yeah.
What was this rated?
It was PG-13,
God
which I have a problem with. 80s was pretty loose on its PG-13s, by the way. If we think of Ghostbusters and all the innuendo,
There was a lot of
this kind of
Ghostbusters,
like
yeah.
this is kind of like that to me. So she just rides the shit out of this corpse for half an hour, leaves.
No 80s pervs, no.
She smokes a cigarette
Yeah.
and drinks a fifth of scotch after this, and then just heads off for the night again. She was just like completely satisfied. She knows that Bernie wasn't cheating on her. She got what she needed from him as a corpse.
One last time, hopefully.
Well, we don't know. I haven't seen two. That's
true.
Maybe
Oh my
two
God.
is just her boning down with the corpse
Jesus.
the whole time. I don't know.
All right. I felt we just like spend more time on that sequence than any other part of the movie.
I mean, that's the
Very
most
on brand.
dramatic.
Yeah.
That's the most dramatic. This is why some people don't
Holy
enjoy what we
shit,
do.
man.
But that's all right.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
So we are an hour into this thing now, and here's where we're at. Bernie is definitely dead, but the mob doesn't know that. In fact, they think he's still alive because some mobster saw him nailing Vito's lady. So that Polly guy is coming back there to try and kill him again. He was the hitman from earlier. Richard wants to keep this charade going so he can shoot his shot with Gwen, and Larry wants to keep it going so he can throw more beachfront parties with hot ladies, even going so far as to rig up a pulley system so Bernie can wave to the beach babes. And as much as I have been and will continue to be shitting on the basic premise of this movie, I have to admit, I can't think of a more 80s plot. It's got it all.
It's definitely got like greed and wealth being the prominent
Materialism.
Kind of yeah.
Guys trying to get laid.
Yeah, absolutely.
No 80s pervs. Bright colors.
Yeah, funky
Like,
music.
yeah, man.
Like just over the top drinking and sexuality.
You could not manufacture a better 80s premise than this movie, I'm saying.
I do agree that if we put all of the 80s movies into some kind of like
Blender.
yeah, and then this would likely pop out as the end thing. I do want to go back to that corpse sex scene. I know we spent a lot of time on it. Do you remember what Larry said after she came down to Silverman?
How do you like that? Guy gets laid more dead than I do alive.
No, she couldn't have.
I get yelled at when I just lay there.
Oh, I thought that was funny.
That's by far Larry's highlight of the whole movie.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna get into it in reference, but I did not love the McCarthy character. But
He's
this one is
not
kind of
suited for comedy, I feel. Richard decides to come clean to Gwen at this point, but after seeing that totally convincing ruse the night before at the party, she understandably doesn't believe him. And she definitely wouldn't believe him if she could see Bernie vigorously attacking that mob assassin just below the deck. I mean, talk about ridiculous.
Oh my God. So there's so much badness here. I did laugh actually when he had him strung up and he was using the cord to wave with Bernie. He put a cigarette in his mouth and a drink in his hand, and he was making Bernie wave at everyone as he pretended to play Monopoly. I thought that was kind of funny. When he falls over the edge here, though, and like gets into a fight with a mafia guy, like you suggested,
fucking Larry tips him over the edge. He's running back and forth with a beach chair like a goddamn rickshaw driver.
He looked like he was in a wheelbarrow race with the guy. Like,
yeah,
he was just running
exactly.
Around. Yeah, we're getting a lot of that kind of bad corpse comedy, I guess, here. The mafia guy, though, does sort of choke out the already dead body.
Well, like Bernie lands on him essentially, and that's the nature of their struggle.
But
stabs him.
He stabs him. So he feels now that he's completed the job, right? He thinks that everything is over. Kind of one of the more funny running jokes is that he keeps coming back to life to them. Right?
To the hitman.
To the hitman,
has
right?
to keep going back. And,
That actually is kind of well done. I do like that. But so there's a lot happening here. He's told Gwen about the death. She doesn't believe him, so that's not going well for Silverman. Our other character, McCarthy, is just trying to enjoy his time here on the island. The both of them want to just sort of have fun, but what do they discover about Bernie right here?
Well, this is the moment where enough is enough for Richard, and he just finally decides to call the police. But when he accidentally plays back a recording of Bernie's earlier phone call with the hitman, in which he refers to killing the two schmucks arriving on the 6 o'clock ferry, he and Larry come to a startling realization.
We were on the 6 o'clock ferry.
And we're two schmucks. Lomax? Bernie? He's gonna have us killed?
Why?
I don't know. Unless he's the one who's been stealing from the company.
Son of a bitch, he's gonna kill me. I like the guy.
But if they're upset now, just wait till they read that suicide note.
Yeah. So this is one of those things that can only happen if you understand old school answering machines.
Yeah, it would keep recording while you were having the phone call if you picked up after it had engaged.
And nobody born in the last 30 years would have any understanding of what that was, right? And
we understand.
We do. And it only works here, but they get that recording. In the recording, he does mention a suicide note. So they decide to start tearing apart this office area to see if they can find it. They do eventually open a briefcase, and in that briefcase is a ton of money and the suicide note. Wow, it is pretty special.
This has to be your least favorite part of the movie, right?
Well, this is the most offensive part of the movie.
To you?
Well, the Silverman character in
general.
the
Silverman character in general.
It makes me uncomfortable, but in the note, it basically says that it's a murder-suicide because Larry...
They're lovers.
Is lovers with Silverman, and...
One of them wants a sex change operation. That's why they stole the money.
Yeah, and they're stealing the money so that one can become a lady, and they can live together for the rest of their lives. But I don't know why they kill each other. Why would he kill them both if they have the money?
Somebody found because he was actually cheating on him. Wasn't that the deal?
Okay. So
Larry's getting the sex change. Larry's getting the reassignment surgery.
Yeah. What is funny is, or what they're trying to make funny is the McCarthy character gets upset when he reads the note, and he's the one who is going to get a reassignment.
He says he's calling him a drag queen, which shows a very 1980s knowledge of drag queens,
of transgender issues. Yeah,
exactly.
For sure. We have a very 1980s.
I knew you would fucking key in on this right away.
Oh yeah,
I think our listeners knew too. This is
You keyed in right away though, which I think is progress.
I keyed in that you would be upset by it. I can always tell what you're gonna get upset by. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what is right and wrong is what you're saying.
Either way,
so we get some,
the guys don't have time to dwell on this.
We get some bad transgender humor,
classic 80s homophobia.
Yeah, for
mixed
sure,
with a little transphobia. Yeah,
in here, and that's not something that's good. But they now know that there is a hit out on them. What they don't know is that the people who were going to put the hit out already did the job with Bernie.
Well, the way they interpret it is that as long as Bernie is alive, the hitman will not kill them. So they are now operating under the assumption that they have to keep Bernie alive lest the hitman come to finish them off, when the hitman really does not have any motivation to kill them, now anyway. So, but in their minds, they need to keep this ruse going. Only Bernie isn't where they left him. He's being buried in the sand by some punk kid. And I know you always accuse me of hating on child characters for no reason, but come on, this kid's a little shit.
They have made this kid an absolute asshole, and maybe...
Thank you. Finally.
He has buried Bernie. The two guys come out there, Silverman and McCarthy, look down, and they're like, what the fuck, kid? And the kid gives him the finger and slaps his ass and runs away.
Yeah, man.
Now, obviously, that kid is a dick. They dig out Bernie from under the sand and drag him in here. We get some bad, like, sand and cleaning up comedy.
You don't think this is top-notch physical comedy? They fucking vacuum the sand off Bernie's body and in the process discover that he wears a toupee. Then, after stapling it back onto his head, they drag Bernie out of the house in a wagon, only his head is bouncing off the ground because of his limp neck. They also have to simulate him running to catch the boat, which they do by running beside him with an arm at the back of his jacket. And again, despite the fact that nobody on earth runs like that, and multiple people are saying hi to Bernie without a response, and his arms and legs are flopping around like they're made of limp spaghetti, nobody notices anything odd about any of this. Like, did we just give this a 10 bad on principle or what?
You know what? This scene where they're running with him and they've tied their shoes to his shoes and they've got the arm up his back is laughable. Like,
but not in a good way.
No, but like hilarious.
I wasn't laughing. I was angry.
It was so bad. It was hilarious. You were like, holy fuck. And the worst part about this is they run it.
The worst part is there's a sequel to this movie.
Well,
that's
worse.
Yeah.
But they're about to repeat this whole process because they run it forward. They get down there and then they just miss the ferry. And they're like, shit, now we have to go get keys to his boat.
They remember that Bernie has a boat of his own and that Tawny girl brought them back earlier that day.
So they do this whole process and then they do it again by taking him back to the house to go get the keys. Now, when they get back there to get the keys, though, they get a little bit interrupted.
Yeah, there's a couple of intruders because earlier in the movie, Bernie had like assaulted some like contractor or something who was supposed to do some job, and Bernie did not think it was to his satisfaction. So he literally kicked this guy in the ass as the guy was running away. That guy's back looking for revenge. You're going to fuck up Bernie's house or something. They think he's the hitman. So they fucking bludgeon him after some more bad sight gags of Jonathan Silverman swinging and missing as the guy keeps ducking or turning for some reason. But they do eventually knock that guy out. Then a different guy comes down. He's
gardener.
Gardener or something.
Yeah.
And they also knock him out thinking he's another hitman. This scene is rough.
Yeah,
it's rough.
It's really bad. We're getting some really bad timing and physical comedy here. It feels kind of like padding, I guess, in some ways. They're just trying to extend this as they're getting the boat ready. They do end up like knocking both of them out and putting them into...
They lock him in a closet or something.
Into a closet. Yeah. But this is before the real hitman comes back because he doesn't believe Bernie's alive because he saw them with Bernie at the dock at the fucking... like when they brought him to the ferry, right?
Right, but that happens later. First, they hop on the SS Premiums, and the laughs really go up a notch. How about this boat humor?
Oh my God, this is really, really fucking bad. So they... I'm really struggling at this point in the movie. There's a lot of this movie I've had a problem with, but they hop on this power boat. They tie him to the back of the boat in the middle of the back seat.
But he falls out.
Oh my God. They don't know how to operate the boat, so they're trying to add humor.
That section's brutal.
And it's terrible as they're pressing all these buttons and like stupid shit is happening.
They hit a horn, they hit the fucking thing. There's like, yeah.
Larry crashes into a bunch of the dock and boat as he's trying to get out of there. Eventually, they're all on the boat and going, and we get them dragging the corpse, what looks like almost like water skiing. Like they dragged his corpse, they kept hitting it off buoys, and there was all kinds of shit that was happening. And I was like, just make him fucking stand up and water ski and like have people say hi to him as he's water skiing.
Well, they're saying
because
hi
it's
anyway.
fun.
Oh, Bernie is showing off again as he's getting pulled behind this thing.
Yeah.
He's just clanging off the buoys, and that sound finally alerts Richard and Larry to what's going on here.
Man overboard! What? Stop the boat! Oh, Bernie! He's got nice form!
Am I crazy, or are we just bottoming out here?
Oh, God.
That's where we're at.
We're beyond the bottom at this
Yeah.
section of the movie, right? Like, I thought we were in a shitty place when we had that early party with the dead corpse, but that was the highlight based on, like, where we've gotten to here. Their plan is to, like, take this boat and get to shore, move off here, but Of course, we can't end here. We haven't reached the 90-minute mark. What happens to them?
Well, speaking of bottoming out, the boat's gas tank is empty, so it looks like the guys are going to be stuck in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Only no, instead they paddle back to shore using Bernie's corpse as a raft. Now, does this count as our second Titanic reference this season, or think about it?
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, we had Attack of the Beast Creatures, which was
sure did.
definitely a Titanic reference.
Our lowest rated episode ever.
Oh, was it? People hate that movie?
No, you know what? Ironically, I think it's still higher than fucking. There's some movie that you liked that no one else liked that was the lowest. I forget what it was, though.
Oh, my God.
It might have been Sweet November.
Oh, how dare everyone. Everyone should watch that movie and listen to our episode. What is hilarious is that they say that he saves them, yet both of them are wearing life jackets.
They're all wearing life jackets. The two of them and Bernie.
You're like, you didn't need a corpse. Like,
could they even, well, because the hitman needs to think he's alive still.
Oh,
but could they have
think
even gotten back to shore? How far out were they?
Oh, they were fucking far.
Where's the currents taking them out to sea?
It would have taken a crazy long time. Like, if we're actually trying to calculate whether this was a possibility, it doesn't work in a timeline.
It doesn't work in a lot of reasons. They're back on the island.
That body would have been so fucking bloated and disfigured after floating in the water that entire time.
It has been less than a day, though. I don't know if that changes your opinion at all. As I'm thinking about it, all of this happens in the span of like literally 24 hours. This whole thing's wrapped up before the next night.
How long does a body need to be in a body of water before it starts taking on
or a
water?
hot fucking beach climate? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a forensic scientist. Either way, they're back on the island now, but so is the hitman, and he bursts through the front door and shoots Bernie multiple times right after Richard told and showed Gwen the truth. That's bad news for all of them, as this guy isn't going to leave any witnesses, but after emptying both of his guns and somehow getting kicked in the balls by a dead and stationary Bernie, how the fuck, the hitman gets knocked out by Larry after getting tangled up in a phone cord. And that'll just about do it. The next scene shows the cops dragging off the hitman and loading Bernie's body into an ambulance, but we can't end things without one last attempt at comedy, so Bernie's body slides out the back of the ambulance on a gurney, rolls down the boardwalk, and gets launched onto the beach, where it lands right behind Richard, Larry, and Gwen.
Oh, hi, Bernie! See you at the party tonight!
What did she say?
I honestly don't know who moved faster here, them running away from Bernie's body or me diving for the remote to turn this shit off.
Yeah, this ending just sort of exemplified the bullshit that was the last 30 minutes of this movie. We kind of sped through this mafia scene where he was trying to take the three of them out. It is maybe the most egregious, poorly acted comedy sequence in the entire film.
It's real fucking bad.
And that's saying a lot. The fact that they tie up the mafia guy with phone cords and like take him down in this like just garbage scene after he gets kicked in the balls by a corpse is just so terrible. We started this all off by you saying how the fuck was the second one, and I don't know. Like, I honestly don't understand it. The only thing I can say is that the second one had to have been made after the success of
Home
this
video.
on home
Yep.
video, right? There's
Home
no
video
way
dollars,
that
yeah.
this came after a theatrical release, because I'm pretty sure this was rightfully panned as garbage when it came out. I don't understand why people thought this was really good on home video, and I don't understand why so many people still have fond memories of this piece of shit.
Yeah, I wondered the same thing as we hit the credits. We at least go out with a fun 80s song. The name is Hot and Cold by Jermaine Stewart. But man, did this thing not hold up to my memories of it from childhood. I recall fondly renting, watching, and enjoying this. And watching it now, I was like, what the fuck?
This is now number 2 behind Killer Clowns for most disappointing rewatch of my entire life.
Jesus. Wow. Because you had fond memories as a child also.
Yeah, I had fond memories of this movie and of Killer Clowns. Killer Clowns is still more egregious than this as a rewatch potential for me, but
there's a lot of people that are not going to like that opinion.
I know people love Killer Clowns, and I hated.
I didn't mind.
rewatching it.
I had seen it for the first time as opposed to you who had watched it as a child and loved it. But it's, you know.
I mean, I don't mind being a villain here. That's fine. This movie sucks.
I've been
ass,
saying
though.
you're the villain of this podcast since we started.
Yeah, I know.
No one believes me.
That's
but
the narrative you've been running with. I know. You've been trying to throw the weird breast thing
just
out
a
there.
villain who loves big tits. Yeah, exactly. No, I'm kidding. Liking big boobs does not make you a villain. That's the message of this podcast.
So we need to start heading into our ratings here.
I agree. It's the time. The way we always do this, rate the movie on a scale of 1 to 10 2 times. 1 to 10 for how bad it is, 1 to 10 for how enjoyable. And the goal is to find movies that are a 10 out of 10 on both scales, or what we call the Crit 20. And I will say right now, my bad rating will not take long. This whole movie is a one-note joke. It's a one-note joke built upon the flimsiest of pretenses that does not hold up to even the tiniest amount of scrutiny. Anyone who tried to interact with Bernie after he got murdered would immediately have realized that he was dead, or at the very least that something was seriously wrong. But because he's wearing fucking sunglasses and Andrew McCarthy is half-heartedly animating him, no one notices. It's laughable, and that is one of the only times you will hear me use the word laugh in association with this movie. It is a 10 bad for me. What do you think?
I'm not going to argue with you that this is a bad movie. It definitely belongs on the podcast. There is no way that someone can convince me that it doesn't. I had this as a 9 bad. The comedy is really awkward. I hate Silverman's character and portrayal and the way that they do that. It's uncomfortable for me. The 80s culture is way over the top. Yet there's not enough sweet music for me. Like, I feel like they could have. I agree. They really.
Where's the banging soundtrack?
Yeah, they slacked on the soundtrack super hard. The song that like opens us and ends us is really fun.
It's fun, yeah.
But they do not have anything even close to that all the way through. There's way more build and not enough payoff. Silverman does pull off the straight man performance, but I don't like it. Right? If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
McCarthy. Less so.
He's not a comedy guy.
I didn't like.
I don't know why he's in
his
this.
timing didn't work really well.
Yeah.
The guy who played Bernie, he did a pretty good job being a corpse.
It's light work,
I guess, but like it can't be that easy to just like not react when you're getting dragged around and thrown around for all of those scenes.
I mean, it's easy to not react when the comedy isn't that funny.
That's fair.
He's not going to be laughing.
I don't know why I didn't go 10. I think I just felt like the settings and production and like. It is not.
But you know what? No, let me talk you out of this.
Okay.
This is supposed to be a comedy.
Yeah.
How many times did you actually laugh?
Not frequently.
I got one. When they jump on the ferry and it's arriving, not leaving. That's it for me.
I laughed a few times.
Okay.
Even in the awkward times, I did laugh. I think it is effective enough as a comedy that it is a 9 for me.
That's fair.
So we're going to head to enjoyability.
Oh, all right. Well, how enjoyable did you find this movie? Scale 1 to 10.
This was much less than I had expected. I liked the location. The house was kind of fun and cool. I laughed sometimes, but not nearly as much as I had remembered. I also think that it's a terrible idea to make this a PG-13 movie.
You wanted it more raunchy.
Yeah. This could have been fantastic as a like rated R movie. You could have done way more with the like setups and language and a lot of stuff. I felt like PG-13 held this motherfucker back.
So if Bernie's walking around with a permanent rigor mortis boner, you have a better time.
Yeah, it's funnier if he has a raging erection the whole time this happens.
They turn him and he's knocking shit over off the counter. Yeah.
Yeah, this needed to go further. We needed more of that shit. We got so close to the like raunchy 80s women, but we never actually got there.
There was no nudity. You wanted nudity?
If we're being
that's all
honest
it always
this,
comes down to you.
Yeah. Well,
classic villain Nolan.
Yeah,
always all he wants is exposed breasts.
But we are watching a movie that is all about drugs and sex in the 80s and we get none of that.
Well, no, it's not about that. It's about greed.
I'm greedy for
it's like a comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a comedy
version
not enough
of
Wall
them
Street.
Right here. Yeah, it is a comedy Wall Street, and it doesn't pull it off. I actually think that the idea of dragging a corpse around and like making it funny is kind of good. Like, I like the idea of trying to make that. I don't think it was effective in a PG-13 movie, and I don't think that they pulled it off in a way that they should, but I feel like it had potential. Did I enjoy watching it again? No, not even close. I had this as a 6 enjoyable.
Wow, man, you are higher than me for the enjoy rating. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, I think I'm almost completely neutral on this. Watching it again didn't make me angry. Like, I didn't feel like I needed to go negative. I think I am going to go 5. I'm going to reduce it to a 5.
Okay.
So it's 9 bad, 5 enjoyable. But I didn't like. There was enough here that I understand why it became a on VHS success. But it played way poorer than I can remember.
In the modern day.
Yeah.
In the cold light of the modern day.
In the cold light.
Yeah, man. For me, as someone who loves the 80s, I'm very torn about this. I mentioned earlier how the premise is essentially the most 80s thing I'd possibly imagine, and the overall vibes really bring up that nostalgia for me, but the comedy does not hold up at all, which is a problem since, you know, this is a comedy.
Yeah, fair.
I've already described my problems with the plot, but I also did enjoy the 2 leads. Like, honestly, my favorite performance in this movie was probably Bernie before he was dead. but I do have to give this movie credit for the sex scene with Vito's lady and Bernie's corpse. That was a ballsy move, and I respect it. Honestly, yeah.
So this is where I'm saying if it was rated higher, they could have shown some of that.
Yeah, I can't go quite that far. I only have this as a 4 enjoyable.
Okay, we're not far off.
We're
here,
not
though.
far off,
We're
but
not
I am
far off.
negative on this. I did not have a good time, and I'm very disappointed in young me and also the makers of this movie. And the fact that they made a sequel is insane.
The fact that the sequel involves the same corpse is just absolutely shocking to me, though.
Well, voodoo has revitalized it. That's all. It's fine. So we've both got this highly rated for bad, lowly rated for enjoyable. Kind of a disappointment. Although, to be fair, I had a fun time talking about it. That was good.
Yeah. I think people are going to be surprised when they listen to us talk about this in some ways. I think they will have the same fond memories we did. I encourage all of those people to rewatch the movie because it does not hold up.
Do you encourage all those people to drink this beer that we had today from Rogue?
Absolutely. You got to get some dead guy in your mouth if you have not had it.
Yeah.
Just like
like
that,
Vito's
just
lady.
like Vito's lady, you got to put a dead guy inside you because this stuff is absolutely delicious. It is very much a traditional ale, very malt caramel forward. You're getting a lot of the grain flavors and not a ton of hop flavors, which is going to appeal to certain beer drinkers, but it is very, very crushable. We drank 2 of these each while talking about our movie. And
we're both more drunk than when we started, definitely, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But anything from Rogue Breweries, you're not going to be disappointed. If you get a chance to visit them in Portland, I think that's a really cool idea too. That's kind of like a lifelong dream trip for me is to head out there. I've never been to Northwest Coast. I've been to California, but I think I would love Seattle and Portland.
I hated it.
It's going to be the place for me.
You're going to find
though,
a bunch
right?
of crunchy individuals that you will immediately relate to, and I could not stand them.
Oh, I'm so excited. I got to visit.
I'm not a huge fan of Portland. No offense, Portland. I just, the people I met there, I did not care for. I'm an East Coast guy. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not built for your Pacific Northwest.
You would like to be on the rich island here with Bernie.
I'd like to be in the gritty New York City, man, at the beginning. Put me in the fucking heat wave.
Oh, you want to be in the heat wave?
I'll be out there on the street. Hot enough for you? That's me.
You want to be eating that sausage in the hot sausage.
You know it. Yeah. Exactly. No, man. You know what? I did not expect to enjoy this, but I really did. I don't know if you noticed, but in the back of the can, there is a 5-point star, which is kind of like the Rogue logo. And the 5 points it outlays for this beer are malt, toffee, nutty, roast, bitter. This is like their scale for kind of how the composition of their beer. Good combination for me.
Yeah.
The heavy toffee malt part, it was sweet, but not too sweet. The malt was there. I crushed both of these, and I wasn't expecting to enjoy this at all. So really, for me, a pleasant surprise, and I'm very intrigued to try some more Rogue stuff.
Nice. Yeah, this feels like a very toffee-centric European or German beer. Like,
well, it is a Maibach style.
Yeah, it feels very German to me. Like this is a really good representation of that kind of German beer. A lot of times when we think of German beers, we think of the very purity clean Pilsner lager. This is the other style of German beer that I think has inspired a lot of craft brewers in North America, and they do it super, super well here.
Yeah, man. And listen, if you want to go back to Portland, I will wade back into the fucking...
Will you come with me? Let's go to the adventure together.
Yeah.
We'll bring a pack of discs and we'll drink some beer. We'll eat some good donuts at Voodoo.
We will. I will devour that balls.
Chuck Palahniuk is one of my favorite
I don't know who that is.
authors. He wrote Fight Club. Like the author of Fight Club, but he wrote most of his books at Voodoo Donuts. Like he would literally...
What, really?
Yeah, he would literally sit there and write many of his books. He is one of my favorite authors. For me, that's why I've always wanted to visit that place. I think it'd be fun to go there together.
Here's how you do it. You hit Portland, then you jet over to Seattle.
Yeah.
Short trip. Knock that out. Seattle, not my people, but you know what? There's some good food there. There's some great beer there, actually.
Yeah.
And, of course, the birthplace of Starbucks. You
Yeah.
don't drink coffee. Weekend at Bernie's. A colossal disappointment, but I actually feel like I had a fun time talking about this. I had more fun recording this episode than watching the actual movie, which is always the sign of a bad movie, but a good choice for our podcast.
Yeah, I agree. I don't regret rewatching it. Like you, my wife watched it with us and was less enthused than she thought she was going to be for it. Which
my wife fell asleep.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure my wife spent most of the time on her phone and very little of the time watching the movie because it did not hold her as it would have when we were younger. But that's just the way it goes when you revisit stuff from your childhood, apparently.
There you go. You can't please everyone. Although hopefully in 2 weeks' time, we'll be pleasing one specific audience member. We've got a request coming up in a couple of weeks. We're going to be watching a famous bit of Canucksploitation, Terror Train with Jamie Lee Curtis.
I love the idea of Canucksploitation.
Yeah, filmed in Canada, low budget horror, but Jamie Lee's in it. Takes place on a fucking train.
Oh, I love trains, so this can't be so bad for me. The history of steam trains and the railroad across both North America, like Canada and the United States, pretty sweet.
All right, there you go. If you want a fucking history lesson, you can turn into our Terror Train episode. Maybe we'll just talk about the movie and have some fun with that.
Probably. I like that idea. I'm looking forward to this. I mean, I don't even know what could make that a better scenario, like magic or some shit.
All right, you know what? He fucking Googled the movie. He's read a synopsis. Yes, there is magic. So listen, if you like trains, if you like magic, if you like late 70s, early 80s horror, it's a slasher. Come join us in 2 weeks' time for Terror Train. Before then, if you have not already, please follow us on social media at the BMB Podcast on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, feel free to send us emails, thebmbpodcast@gmail.com.
Definitely. We always love to hear from you. We thank you for joining us today for Weekend at Bernie's. Hope we'll see you back here in 2 weeks for Terror Train. Until then, I'm Cooper.
And I'm Nolan.
And we'll see you next time on Bad Movies and Beer.
Keep it burning.
He may be dead, but he's still the life of the party.